Morality has been changed since the birth of the human being. In fact, the most significant morality change occurred during the Roaring Twenties. Before Civil War began, women were considered inferior and didn't even have the opportunity to work, vote, and receive an education. Even though slavery was abolished and the African Americans gained freedom, women still didn't have equal rights with men. In order to establish more equal society, women led Civil Rights Act and they eventually achieved their goal during the Roaring Twenties with endless effort. From the Civil War era to the Roaring Twenties, America became a more constructive society because the modified Constitution and the emergence of liberalism provided equal rights for different races and women, which serves to emphasize the independence of America as a more united nation. After the Civil War ended, the fixed amendments of the Constitution provided opportunities to women in a political way, which involved every American to be in the American society. During the Civil War era, women didn't have the right to serve as a citizen of the United States as equal to the white men. They didn't have the right to vote, the right to own property, the right to control their own money, and the right to sign legal documents. Discrimination and restriction of women's rights made the society of the United States as an exclusive society. Little Woman has a background during the Civil War, and the author of the book, Louise May Alcott, well shows the discriminative aspect of the society. And as a woman, I have no way to make the money, not enough to earn a living and support my family. If he had children, they would belong to him, not me. They would be his property. The code describes that women were in a position where they cannot earn any money, possess property, and have less power than their husbands, which clearly identifies that women were inferior compared to men. Therefore, the society during this era can be defined as an exclusive society where men were centralized and women were neglected. It was not yet a constructive society because women weren't provided with opportunities to contribute to economic development or government issues. Indeed, they couldn't express their opinions publicly because they weren't part of the United States. Nevertheless, women-led Civil Rights Act eventually acquiring a turning point. On August 18, 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified and guaranteed all American women the right to vote. Obtaining suffrage meant that they can contribute to society, finally expressing their voices to the public. As this amendment passed, women started to become more and more equal to men. The bar is in full swing and floating rounds of cocktails permeate the garden outside until the air is alive with chatter and laughter. The code shows women drinking and dancing at the party with men. Before the Roaring Twenties, women drinking and dancing in front of men was an unimaginable behavior. This implies the increased freedom compared to that of the Civil War and creating an inclusive society rather than an exclusive society. In Roaring Twenties, liberalism emerged and removed the stereotype that women were inferior, which allowed them to break loose from the oppressive view and establish the fundamental moral morality. During and before Civil War, there were prejudices existed that represented women. They should behave modestly and carefully, they should be the ones who did all the chores, and they should raise their children alone. Now be a sensible little woman and do as they say. The code in Little Women presents the identity of women, people who are dependent on men, and who should always act modestly. These stereotypes confine women in a restriction that men established for long periods of time. Because of these confinement, Jo and her sisters expresses their dissatisfaction towards society. The world is hard on ambitious girls. This made the United States a biased and disunited nation. However, these prejudices mostly disappeared as the idea of liberalism dominated the states. Liberalism is based on the moral argument that ensures the right of an individual person to life, liberty, and property. Since liberalism was accepted by the Americans, the deep-rooted stereotypes started to get eliminated. Before liberalism was embraced, wives should have always listened to their husbands, and they were treated as the properties of men. He was his wife's man and not his own. The quote implicates that wives were not anymore of husbands' properties, but they had equal rights with their husbands. Of course, not every stereotypes are gone. I'm glad it's a girl, and I hope it shall be a fool. That's the best thing a girl can be in this world, a beautiful little fool. Daisy Buchanan conveys that the best thing a girl can be is a beautiful little fool, which infers that girls have their limit of their capacity. However, Daisy is shown as the character who can choose between Tom Buchanan and Jay Gatsby as her husband, which tells the social status of women rose almost equal to the status of men. Due to the emergence of liberalism, discriminative perspective of men dissolved, transforming to the point of view that looks women as an equal existence. The transformation provided equal rights to women and established the modern morality. In conclusion, Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby and Alcott's Little Women clearly shows the moral difference between the Civil War era and the Roaring Twenties. That women's rights has risen up to the equal level of the right of men, which was caused by the emergence of liberalism and modification of constitutional amendments. As the 19th Amendment was rectified, women gained suffrage, allowing them to express their opinions publicly. Also, liberalism changed the stereotypes of women from dependence to independence. As women got more freedom and self-determination, the United States involved every people as their citizens so that they become a more united nation, achieving their true meaning of the nation.